Welcome. It's August 20th and I'm putting this video together for multiple purposes. Number one, to educate some legislators as to the issues. Number two, to educate the industry as to the same issues, because many of them don't know or understand what the problems are. And as a precursor to the next 19 legislative days starting tomorrow. Spoke with Assembly Member Garcia in Imperial Valley yesterday, and he wanted some information. Okay, let's talk about prepayment controls, because you're hearing about this. Prepayment controls are imposed on recyclers who they've taken some disagreement with. There are no procedures adopted. In fact, the auditor has said it's underground regulation, so they shouldn't be doing it, but they still do. And if somebody's on prepayment controls, they feel free to make reductions to their payment without due process. So that happened to GP. I'm sure it happened to SA. They're already out of business. I had 8 or 9 locations altogether. Top Dollar, and a few others. Then handling fees. You're hearing about handling fees. Handling fees are being withheld for recyclers all over California. In the case in Imperial Valley, Ortiz was without handling fees for 4 months, a substantial amount of money, which really strangled their ability to do business. Then, for some reason, the department, in conjunction with the controller, was not getting checks out recently, and that put processors all across the state into a big bind. Many of them could not buy from recyclers. In Imperial Valley, it left some recyclers without any good option. They could sell to SA Recycling, but SA is not a processor, so SA does not reimburse them for the processing fees, processing payments, which are an integral part of the program to ensure that recyclers do not lose money. In essence, they lost money by having to sell to SA since there was no local operating processor. Then the overall theme here is that the department has choices. It can exercise the choice to help, and statutorily they're supposed to assist recyclers. But they choose more to punish and to attempt to put people out of business. That's their modus operandi. That's the problem. Now, how do they do that? Well, they do it with prepayment controls. If you strangle a person's ability to get their cash, maintain their cash flow, you will put them out of business. And withholding reimbursement is like withholding the amount of money that they would make on a specific sale, anywhere from, I'd say, 12 to 16 times. So if they denied a load, like they did with the recycler Andrade family in Covina, of $3,000, it's going to take the Andrade family about, let's say, 14 loads to recover what they lost, what they didn't get reimbursed. And that's not allowed by statute. Now, the handling fees, they're delaying as much as possible, and I'm seeing that all across the state, and also the imposition of what they call handling fee audits. In fact, I'm in an argument with them. I don't know if it's an argument. I will say this: I have proven to the handling fee supervisor that they have no authorization to take records. Okay? Now, why would they want to take records? They're really not entitled to the records. They take the records to impose standards on those records which are not adopted. That means they're underground. That means that the recycler doesn't know those standards are going to be imposed and does not prepare to prevent that. Okay? Now, in doing so, a good background video to watch is Fake Forensics. Watch how the department came about with the process, but it's still being imposed, and it's being imposed by any employee, any state personnel within the enforcement, and I think even certification branch. So this is a bad thing that's gone crazy. Now, profiling, are they profiling? Yes. I had a case where in the East Bay, I represented a recycler, and this is where it came about, the profiling. I knew it was happening, and I'd even spoken to a supervisor of certification a few years back. She said, don't use the word profiling, use the word associations. It's still blacklisting by Latino is what it is. And it's an app that's been added to the computer system without any real supervision on what these people are doing with this information. Also, there's been a concerted effort to deny handling fees wherever possible. Early last year, I had a workshop in City of Commerce, invited a couple of attorneys in. One was former director of the Office of Administrative Law, and the other one has got the most experience in battling these cases within Cal Recycle in both formal and informal hearings, and he's been the most successful. And one of the things we talked about is the willingness to defy judges. Now, they know that a judge in Ventura told them that they cannot simply withhold handling fees anytime they want to. They either have to approve or deny. I have a recycler who's in Sun Valley, Pacoima area. They want his records. We won't give them the records because they will be impose these fake forensics. That's the only reason they could want them. And so they're withholding his payment. Now they're doing it for a second month. That's in Boca Negras district, and senator over in Van Nuys. His name escapes me. Okay. What else are they doing? They're imposing other people's laws. And let's start with the handling fees. In Sacramento, a year ago, last December, they denied handling fee payments to about 21 Latino recyclers. They said that the processor had violated the weights and measures laws. Well, they can't do that, but they did it anyway. And through another source of documentation, I found out that they denied $409,000 to these Latino recyclers, about 21 of them, in that action. And Merry Christmas, that was the check that they would have received just before Christmas. And for some of them who had multiple locations, that was in excess of close to $40,000. So they deny the judge, defy the judge. What else are they doing? They've had the profiling issue even in an informal hearing. So an internal attorney also refused to listen to that. And now we've also got the fake forensic people admitting in hearings that they can't do forensics. But I have a transcript of one of them in 2007 saying that's what he did. He did forensic analysis, and he was trained by forensic experts, and that's not what they trained him in. So we have the fruit of the poison tree. We have these people continuing on for many years, putting lots of people out, many of them Latino, and some of them immigrant. Here's a story about an immigrant. Armenian man came from Ohio, Indiana, had a trucking business there, but for some reason it went over. Something changed, it went under. He came out here. He bought a truck, got himself into business, but he wanted more, so he bought a little recycling business. They did the forensics on his paperwork. Turns out his employee was changing a few of the numbers and giving himself a daily bonus. Not significant, but for the recycler, if he doesn't have the material that he shows that he's purchased, he doesn't get any benefit. He loses when he gets to the payment, gets into the payment process. They will cut the payment because he doesn't have the weight to substantiate it. They didn't care about that. All they did is want to say, you've changed the records. There was no damage to the fund. They put him out of business. It cost him, he was on a lease. He still had to make lease payments on the property. never knew what hit him. Also, what do we have? Enforce other people's laws. The Poncio family had a recycling center in Los Angeles. They were up for certification, review, and renewal, either permanent or probationary. And long story short, somebody decided, and it was not the auditor on the job. Somebody else decided to punish that man for bribery. Now, it's my belief that if there's an issue of bribery, that should either go to a district attorney or the attorney general. But no, Cal Recycle thought they were the ones to impose that law. And so, through the imposition of an informal hearing, which means it's a kangaroo court, they punished him. They put him out of business. It's now going to go to court, and I think the department will lose. But in the meantime, I'll just remember what that man said to me one time. He said, "Leonard, I thought the government was supposed to help you. Okay? This is what's going on in this." So, another thing that happened, let's go back to 2013, a budget bill where they got the ability to extend the period of certification. Basically, it had been 60 days. They slipped in language into the budget bill to make it 90 days, and then they immediately ignored that. So what happened? The auditor can go in and they can evaluate everything that I've said. They can look at specifics. I would love them to look at, first of all, the handling fee denials in Sacramento. Another one was Recycle Payin, Sweet Family in Mendota. And they were put out of business. I defended them. We were successful. They were allowed to go back in business. And then I think we suffered, or she suffered, from their retaliation for us winning the hearing. They were put out of business without any due process, without the ability to get due process, unless they were taken to Superior Court, take the state to Superior Court. Very expensive and not something that most little recyclers can afford. Recycle Payin, that was one. Certainly, Poncio and the imposition of bribery charges by any standard, by the state standards, that did not constitute bribery. Next, we have delaying certifications. One recycler in Imperial Valley attempted to open up in San Diego County, submitted his application, should have been done in 60 days. No. 7 months it's still going, he had to shut it down. He was paying $7,000 a month rent. He paid out over $51,000 in rent and was stonewalled by the department. These are the things that need to be analyzed. They're happening to Latinos, they are happening to immigrants, they're happening to everybody. But it's most egregious in this community. So that's what we'll start with. You need any background, any specifics, I can supply that. And I guarantee you the results if the auditor were to go in and analyze any of these things. It was through information that I gave the auditor that they determined that the prepayment controls was underground regulation, but the department hasn't changed. Just like the decisions on handling fees. The department gets a court decision, it doesn't change, it ignores it. These are the things that need to be studied in an audit. The auditor needs to go in and interview these people, find out what was going on, who's doing what, and take care of it. And that's where we go from here. So, this is tape number 1, and I'll follow it up as necessary. Thank you.